That's an exciting investment. We can make the most beautiful farm with incredible diversity and while having environmental impact.
But the future of the Golden Visa will probably be to have funds that invest in more sustainable issues.
Alex, where are you from? I can hear the English
Yes.
accent,
Yes.
but
UK
tell me.
born and bred.
Yeah?
So I'm from actually Wiltshire, which is a kind of an agricultural county in the south of England.
Okay.
Very beautiful, rolling hills, lots of sheep and cows, and not a huge amount else. I, amongst my travels, went eventually to London, like most do. Did my 10 years there or thereabouts, and started to get the itch. And that's when I came to trial living in Portugal. Actually, at first I came here just for 5 months, and about 2 days in, I was like, yeah, I'm not going home. So my journey began on the middle of a cornfield in Ohio. Wanted nothing to do with agriculture, even though it was in my family for about 100 years now.
Okay.
I went to school for engineering and then moved to the West Coast and worked with a variety of startups and companies developing sensors and different data models. Mm-hmm. And eventually I lived in San Francisco, and around this time I became more involved with the family farm and saw really firsthand how little they were making and how much the soil was being destroyed. And I thought that being a young, bright engineer, I had all the answers, and so I told him, I'll take care of this. It's not a big deal. But realized that really farmland in general farming in general is stuck in this negative feedback loop. It's not specific to Ohio or my parents' farm or even the United States. All around the world, farmers are trapped into growing a special kind of commodity or farming in a certain way. So we met each other after I'd been here about 6 months or thereabouts, seven months or so. And it was a very easy meeting. We had so much in common, and it actually immediately started working together after probably less than a month or so.
Okay.
So we were very quick to create the project in its initial forms, but it had a couple of forms before it.
Reiterations.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of pivoting at the beginning to find the fit between the overlap in where we felt there was opportunity with what we were driven by. So I met Alex here. And whenever you have a big problem that you're working on, you just tell everyone. So I'm telling him about agriculture and the climate and these ideas I have. And he was also working on this problem in this space. And so for many, many weeks, we would meet at coffee shops and really geek out. And so together, we were able to summarize what our objective is. And really that's to reverse the decline of soil health at scale. Because if we don't have food. And the scale part of that problem is incredibly difficult. We can make...
It's ambitious, like doing this at scale.
Yeah, there's an urgency to it. If we don't do it now, it's not a good future. So we can make the most beautiful farm on 1 hectare with incredible diversity and just perfect, but your impact is limited to that 1 hectare. And so how we decided to approach scale is to create a profitable and investable product that simultaneously generates returns for investors while having environmental impact. Portugal obviously has a very entrenched tradition of olives. That's the main thing. Portugal grows quite a surprisingly large percentage of the world's olives. Okay. So that lends itself very nicely, and the technology in olive growth has come on really nicely in the last few years. So that's an exciting investment. We think so much about water supply. Whenever we're analyzing any given deal, water is always the central point in the due diligence of assessing, is this a good deal or not?
Having access, yeah.
And olive trees
can withstand a bit more fluctuation than some other crops. So another crop that's really booming here is almonds.
Okay.
A lot of the California lot are coming across, they've kind of had their fingers burned and now coming across actually implementing some really interesting strategies to use less water because of what's happened in California.
So we focus on one key metric, and that's soil organic carbon.
Okay.
This is the fuel that feeds the biological activity under our feet.
Okay. So the health of the soil,
The
if
health
you like.
of the soil. It's so common to think of soil as this medium to just hold the roots of trees or plants.
Yeah.
But there's so much life in it. And so when you improve on this metric, not only are you increasing the resiliency, the strength of the plants, you're improving the water retention, which is really important with climate change.
Yes.
You're increasing the nutrition of what's being grown, which we've completely forgotten about in the agriculture space.
Yes.
And you're absorbing carbon from the atmosphere. So it's by focusing on metrics like this, we're able to take a negative feedback loop that we see in agriculture right now and create a positive feedback loop.
More recently, since 2018, 2019, 2020 with Brexit, and with the US investors coming into play because of different, the gun shooting, Trump, all of that attracted US investors to Portugal. And when that happened, we started seeing in the market some funds which are more, let's say, so they are not real estate oriented. They are ESG oriented, like investing in agriculture, in renewable energies, in blue economy.
Yes.
So things that funds
Kind
that
of
we call
the sustainability
like impact,
themes which are
funds.
important to
Exactly.
the new wave of investors.
So, and I think that is something that not only the new wave of investors like to see, but I think it's probably what will, let's say, save our golden visa regime, because I think that the market or even the regime will probably shift into something more green or more ESG, more sustainable.
Yes.
Because we need
Outside of the real estate market.
We need to bear in mind, so the real estate is very hot, as I was mentioning. So there is an overall understanding that the real estate market does not need additional incentives for people to invest. So we don't need additional incentives.
People love it anyway.
Exactly. So we don't need the golden visa to attract more real estate investors to Portugal. Golden visa, in respect of the real estate, created, in my view, not in a very fair way, but it created the impression that that the Portuguese people are no longer able to live in the city center because the golden visa was
But it wasn't because of the golden visa. It was predominantly because of other European people moving here on NHR, because this was cheaper for them to live. So golden visa, I think it's a very unfair rap for increasing.
Very unfair, but
increasing the prices.
political soundbite is a bit that one.
Yeah.
So I think that the future of the golden visa and the future of the golden visa funds, I think that the capital markets in Portugal still need an incentive. So I think that the funds will still be incentivized by the golden visa regime.
Yeah.
What I mean is that I think that the future, I don't say that it will be next year, but the future of the golden visa will probably be to have funds that invest in more sustainable issues, so that even from
actually benefits the bigger market.
Exactly.
Right?
So it's funds that have an impact. So that you have an impact in the country, in the community, in the economy, in the environment. So because again, if you put yourself in the shoes of a politician, they love to be able to say something which is green.
Yes.
So if you are able to say, look, it's true that I'm giving the possibility of foreigners to get the Portuguese passport after 7 years, but I'm doing that for the benefit of the country and for the environment. So I think that the future will determine a greener, the existence of greener funds than the ones that we have nowadays. But
interesting. So maybe a more sophisticated fund advisory approach.
I think so.
So you created the fund. Give me a little bit more information about the fund structure. What is the purpose of your fund?
So, in a sentence, the purpose of the fund was to stretch the risk profile available on the market. So our perception was that there was an opportunity to create something that was of a lower risk profile than anything else that currently existed. We can dig into the technicals on that if that's of interest, but we do that essentially through investing into farmland.
Investor invests into Pelotera Farmland Fund, And from that investment, we buy high value land in Alentejo with a lot of water assets. Water is critical for any agricultural process. So on the financial side, it's a very simple structure. We buy land, we rent the land to large-scale operators. This generates a 5% annual return. And then at the end of the fund, we sell the land. This generates an additional 14%. And who we sell it to is important in the process, and that's almost, in every case, the operator themselves.
Okay.
It works really well for their model because they're generally growing olives and almonds, which become cash flow positive around year 4, year 5. So
so by renting the land from you, they're saving on the cash flow initially until the farm is established, and then they can buy it because they have the capital.
Right, they can get financing. These are large-scale operators that are looking to expand without tying up capital and land.
Yes.
And also because they're the end buyer and they're part of the process, they're renting and they're working the land throughout that process, they treat it better.
How big is the fund that you advise on?
So Pelletera Farmland Fund is, the target size is 30 million.
Okay.
And we're approximately 75% subscribed now. The fund length is 7 years, starting from last year.
Okay.
And within the management regulations of Pelletera Farmland Fund, there's an ability to extend the length for 1 year up to 2 times. So this accommodates investors with different time frames to get their passport.
To get their golden visa. So you've got a 2-year subscription, 5-year term, +1 possibility at the end of it. Okay. Yep. But you have an exit strategy in place after 7 years already. So for the first investors that came in, that need
so the
to
exit strategy is really around our partnership with operators. So we find operators that are looking to expand their operations without tying up capital and land, but who are investing in operations that'll be cash flow positive around the same time that we'll be liquidating the assets.
Okay. Let's talk about the nationality. So you've got a large portion of US investors.
Yeah.
Are they specifically farmers, for instance, or are these?
No. So this is a common misconception actually, is that people think that agricultural investors or agricultural operators would be interested in investing in a fund that's focused on agriculture. Yeah. But the reality is that it's not even so much about the content for a lot of people. It's about the risk profile. So insert any asset here that's as non-volatile as farmland is, and people will be interested in this market at least, because as you said, it's about capital preservation.
The kind of investor that comes to our fund is one of 2 types. The first type, someone who's looking for very low risk, low volatility. Farmland as an asset class, a lot of people aren't familiar with, but it's really tied to population growth. And over the last 40 years, there just hasn't been a down year. They're not making any more farmland. And so if you're looking for capital preservation, especially compared to a lot of other types of investments, farmland is perfect. On the other side, a lot of investors now are wanting to invest more in line with their ethics. And so Portugal is their new home. And why invest in something that's extractive when you can invest in something that's more additive? And so we hear that a lot with investors. We really want to invest in sustainability, the environment.
Actually make a difference.
To make a difference. It's not, maybe decades ago it was all about financial returns, but people are more and more realizing that it's
different, a different generation.
Yeah.
Where does the majority of your investors come from?
So right now, over 50% come from the United States.
Okay.
The next most common is probably the UK.
So UK is our second most common market. I think people, I'd be interested in your view on this as well. I think people expected the UK market to kick off a bit more aggressively following Brexit, but it's been a slow and steady increase in UK interest.
Definitely an increase over time, I think, as the reality of what they lost in terms of access is becoming clearer. In the early days of Brexit, there was a flurry of activity and a few people that immediately said we can't bear the thought of not having access. And then it tapered down a bit, and now it's definitely picking up again. I think you only appreciate what you have or had after you lose it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm UK, so I can relate to these folks coming into our fund, but it's always through gritted teeth when it's the Brits, you know, because it's in such recent memory that they had it for free. So it's always a kind of a reluctant, you know, okay, let's do this. So on that, we're seeing actually recently this extra flurry of US investors who I think have been 80% there in their mind and just sitting and waiting, and they've seen the euro dollar
parity
weakness.
For the first time in 20 years,
and a lot of people are jumping in saying, hey, this is a 20% discount compared to a year ago or whatever it is.
Let's do it. Let's do it now.
So that's kind of interesting too.
It's great that you get to manage the two, or combine your passion
we love it.
with a real business.
Yeah, the joy of being able to work quite a lot outside, as well as being able to do things that at the end of the day are, you know, really proud of what you've done. So it's really, we're enjoying it enormously. Yeah.
Good.